And a heart wall is when our heart is broken and we literally protect it. And it's been tied to heart disease, heart attack, not receiving love, not giving love, wanting to attract love, but you can't because you have this wall literally around your heart.
What if the truth came in a gel cap and we could just pop it in our mouths and forget about it? Well, it doesn't, and we can't. But we can laugh in the face of reality while plotting our survival. Welcome to the Truth Tastes Funny podcast. I am your host, Hirsch Redpoon, and if my guests can handle the truth, so can you. Open wide, folks. Here it comes. My guest today on Truth Tastes Funny is Jennifer Takagi. Jennifer is someone who I met on the Marketers Cruise, I believe, a year ago, and then saw again recently on our Marketers Cruise, and I did a 12-minute kind of healing with her, and I will tell you that it was transformative, and I was so excited to be able to have her on the show. So she's the 12-minute success coach. She's a certified high performance coach, empowering women and the gentlemen to unlock their purpose by trusting their intuition, releasing emotional blocks, gaining clarity to achieve their next level of success. And she uses all kinds of modalities, and she's going to talk about it. And I welcome you to the show, Jennifer.
Thanks for having me, Hirsch. And we have had a lot of fun on cruises together. So I'm already signed up for next year. Can't wait to hang out with you again.
Me too. Okay, so I would be remiss if I didn't say that the 12-minute session that I did with you was a highlight of that trip. Um, but it's really important for the audience, not so much what I discovered or this or that. It's really how you came to do what you do, and then how you do what you do. Because I think the more the audience understands and kind of demystifies it a little bit, the more open they may be to exploring it and the value of it. So yeah, share away.
Thanks. I gave a talk one time and I titled it From Government Employee to Woo. And I thought that was very descriptive. And a very high level person in the speaking world said, nobody understands that. And I said, well, if you don't know woo, then maybe you don't get it. But, going from government employee to woo, which obviously is something very out there, especially if somebody
Yeah.
doesn't understand that term. I thought that in and of itself was funny and very, clear and concise. But I was wrong. Like I thought I was funny, but I was not. I was not funny.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go back to like when I was a little kid. And I I'm a Christian, born on a Sunday. Or Monday, my first time in church was the next Sunday. So I've always believed in a higher power. I call that higher power God. And I'm totally open to all the different possibilities and belief systems. I'm not like I'm not, if you're not me, I hate you kind of person. But when I was a kid, we had a neighbor, a friend that my parents were good friends with, and he was a plastic surgeon. And I overheard my mom having this conversation that the man's wife, the doctor's wife, needed surgery. And they decided they were going to do it with no anesthesia. And they were going to do hypnosis. And they were going to hypnotize her. And he was going to do this surgery. And this was many years ago. So it wasn't like laparoscopically, it was like cut
Yeah.
her open. And so my mom's retelling this story. And at some point during the surgery, he tells his wife, you are bleeding at this point. You need to stop that bleed. And the bleed stopped. And he finished the surgery. It was a complete success. And she didn't have any of the side effects from the anesthesia, which my favorite side effect is to puke for hours. So if I could skip,
Yeah.
that, I would totally be into it. So I'm going to say I always had an openness to there's a lot more. Like there's a lot more than what we have and do. And in January of 2020, I was in a business mastermind and they brought in a spiritual healer. I'd never heard of that. Like, what? But I fell in love with her immediately. We have a little one-on-one call and she just knew things about me. And it's very interesting to me. We can all have the same skills, we just develop different ones. So she just knew things. And I was like, oh, I have to work with you. Like, how does this happen? So I worked with her for months and she identified and cleared like behavioral traits that I had that I wasn't even aware of. And she was like, in your family, your sisters and mom had huge personalities, huge emotions, like big emotions, and there was no room for you in the house. And so I'm the youngest, and for you to be seen, you had to jump up and down and scream and yell because like there was a lot already going on over here,
Yeah.
and like you were just like an afterthought. And I was like, that's not true. And she's, but it is. And she said, what you need to know is you don't have to walk in a room and jump up and down because everybody sees you. And I said, no, they don't. Like nobody sees me. And she goes, literally, you walk in a room and everybody notices you. And I was like, okay. So then we start working through and unwinding some of this stuff. And it was like, holy crap, that's true. I walk in a room and I jump up and down, and I don't have to jump up and down because, like, I'm just there.
Hmm.
So that started me on this curiosity journey. And I'm going down this path of spirituality and learning new things. And I met another woman who reads Akashic records, which are the messages of your soul. And do I want to learn that? Yes, it was great. We get to the end, and I get the beautiful email that says, congratulations, you're a certified soul care coach. I didn't even know I signed up for that, Hirsch. Like, I didn't even
Yeah.
know that was part of the program. So I opened it up to this group and I was like, hey, I've got 5 spots. Who wants their records read? And every one of those ladies responded with, may I give you a testimonial? And if anybody's an entrepreneur, a testimonial is like manna from heaven. Like
Yeah,
you
it's
just
gold.
don't get testimonials like that, right? So to add the humor to all of this on how you want to show up, I don't know if you're familiar with human design. I know enough
Yes,
to
yes.
throw the term around and be like dangerous, but I'm a projector. So as a projector, I'm supposed to literally just walk in a room and wait for people to come to me. And I'm like, well, that's really hard. I talk too much for that. But okay. So it's the first day of the marketer's cruise. This is the truest story ever. If I could only make this up. I went to get some breakfast. By the time I got through the line, I was a little bit late. Then I needed a Diet Pepsi to take to the class. So I had my bag on one arm with a glass of ice. The other hand, I'm holding a can of Diet Pepsi down at my side, walking along. We're at sea. So it wasn't rough, but ships move on the sea. Like they rock a
True.
little bit. It's not just like flat. I'm walking along. I don't know what happened. Somehow I must have bumped a stool that was mounted to the ground and wasn't going to move. And that Diet Pepsi dropped out of my hand. And instantaneously, my first thought was, oh my gosh, that's going to be so loud when it hits. Like it was an instantaneous thought.
Yeah.
As it hit, and it was loud. It was really loud. And there was somebody at the mic at the front of the room. It was really loud. And when it hit, I was bending down to grab it as fast as I could so it wouldn't start rolling around. And it exploded. Like exploded. Diet Pepsi is going everywhere. I'm soaked. All the people around me are soaked. I grabbed the can. I walked out. I went straight to the ladies' room. This other woman comes in behind me and we're getting paper towels. And I was like, I have plenty of paper towels. She's obviously agitated. And I said, the good news is it's diet, so it won't be sticky. And I go in and there's a man who's considered very high up in our world. And as I'm patting the back of his sports jacket from the Diet Pepsi. And I lean forward and I pat his papers that are dotted with speckles of Diet Pepsi. I said, at least it's not sticky. And he just smiled, and that was that. So one of the people that I sprayed is going to be at an event I'm attending next week. And I said to somebody else, I don't even know who's going to be there. And they said, oh, well, this woman's going to be there. And I said, yeah, well, I sort of met her, but I exploded a Diet Pepsi on her. I don't know that, like, I want her to remember me for
Yeah.
that. And she was like, and he goes, oh, well, that's a good intro. Hi, I'm Jennifer. I'm the one that splashed you. I just
Yeah.
sprayed you with Diet Pepsi. So I just want to throw that out there because we show up how we show up and
Right.
we have a choice. So after the exploding Diet Pepsi, I had 30 seconds to get on the stage, tell people who I was. But I went and I sat for a while. Like I had to let that go. Like I love to after a session like literally brush off the energy that might have attached to me. And I had to let that go before I could go take the stage. And it was kind of a big deal. And when we talk about emotions and emotional baggage, I had a neighbor that explained it one day. She said, you graduate high school and you leave home either to go to college, go to trade school, get married, leave, whatever you do at whatever age you leave the house. You have a little red wagon. And that wagon is full of, she didn't call it emotional baggage, but that's what it was. It's full of all the hurts
Yeah.
and disappointments that you had. And when you leave your home, you can drag that little wagon behind you and keep adding to it, or you can leave it.
Yeah.
And at the time, I thought that's like the greatest thing ever. The problem is we think we let it go, but we really didn't.
Yeah.
We're still carrying around those emotions. So that's where I got very fascinated with let's literally clear the emotions quickly, easily, without having to relive them, without having to talk about them. And her, since you brought it up, when we did our little quick session, one of your biggest emotions was literally inherited.
Yeah.
So it wasn't even your experience. So at the moment of conception, the mother or father literally can pass a strong emotion on to the baby. And then
Yeah.
it can just
It
be spread.
it's so wild. It's wild because what I've learned is once we once we decide, I think it's this in a nutshell to tie together what you were saying. Once we decide to leave that wagon, that we're okay leaving the wagon, the stuff that's in the wagon starts to come into focus for us. Maybe it's like perspective, right? If you're pulling a wagon behind you, you don't even know what's in it. You're just pulling it, you're just schlepping it along. If you leave it there and you just walk away from it and then you kind of have a picture of it or something like that, you can step away because you can say, oh, I'm leaving, I'm letting that go. That's not too scary for me to look at. So I think when we did our session, what was what made it so successful was that I had already for a few years kind of laid the groundwork for self-discovery and meditation and little things like that, just opening my mind a little bit at a time. And then when we got together, I remember you saying to me, sometimes people will feel something different right after. Sometimes it'll hit them later in the day, and sometimes it won't, it'll take a while and they won't necessarily feel a transformation. But it's different for everybody. And I felt for me that it was immediate in that session. And then it only increased to where the next day, because this was in the afternoon, and then that was a Friday, and then the next day was Saturday, and that morning was I was just so light and so at ease. And it's a day before you go home. And that day is usually hard because you're leaving, you're going home. And for me, it was like it was lightened. And so I thank you again for that because I feel like this is this is something that you're sharing with people. And and it's a gift because you could have gone through it yourself and, experienced stuff, but not shared it, not kind of brought it to others. What is it that drives you bring to bring these gifts and to bring this relief and possibility to others?
I had learned some of these modalities, but it literally was just for me. Like I was not going to be that woo girl, that spiritual girl, that out there weirdo kind of thing, which in my circle, that's kind of what they think of me now. And I was working with a languaging marketing guy, and we did a session on a Monday, a break on Tuesday, a session on Wednesday. So Monday, we're trying to come up with all this languaging around leadership development and kind of bring in some energy work to it. Like we were trying to really put a square peg in a round hole situation. And so we worked and did great work on Monday, and Tuesday we took off just to let it marinate. Wednesday morning, I literally woke up and I had a message from God, from my spirit team, from the universe, from my intuition. We just call it anything you want. But I knew in that moment I was going to make a shift and I was going to be an energy healer. And it took me a long time to use the word healer. I was like a catalyst for healing. I'm this, I'm that, because I felt like that was too much pressure. Like I didn't want to be a healer. And then I started working with people and I started making major differences in their lives. And again, I believe it's a gift from above. I believe it's divinely inspired. I use Dr. Bradley Nelson's emotion code, body code, belief code are the three main ones that I use on a really regular basis. And I was at an event a couple of weeks ago. I've been traveling a lot this year. Like we're at the middle of
Yeah.
February and I've already been on 2 cruises and a trip to Miami. Just crazy. And
Wow.
a conversation came up about emotion code and body code and the work that I do. And one of the speakers had said, I don't feel love. Like
Hmm.
I know my wife and kids love me. I feel the love of God, but I don't feel love from people. And I made a note to my friend. I put, he has a heart wall. I can fix that. And I did reach out to him. I haven't heard back yet. He probably thinks I'm a weirdo, and I might be. But in this conversation, another woman was part of the conversation. She comes running up to me at lunch and she goes, I have a client for you. You have to come talk to him. So we sit down and I was like, hey, what's going on? He goes, I don't know who you are, what you do, but she said we had to meet. And I said, did you resonate with that message of, I don't feel love? And he goes, I did. And I said, you have a heart wall. And a heart wall is when our heart is broken and we literally protect it. And it's been tied to heart disease, heart attack, not receiving love, not giving love, wanting to attract love, but you can't because you have this wall literally around your heart. And it's an energetic thing. And I said, well, do you want to do this right now? And, we're in a room of 200 people at lunch. And he goes, yeah, sure. So we did. And we released an emotion and it happened at 4 years old. And he goes, wow, I just feel so different. And I was like, yay.
Yeah.
And I told my husband later, I said, like at the very huggy group, and he went to hug me and he wouldn't let go. Like it's the longest hug from an initial meeting of somebody I've ever had.
Yeah.
But he, like, I could just feel him as we're hugging. I could just feel anxiety just
The release. Yeah.
sliding off of him. So one of the emotions was abandonment at 4 years old, and he was like, I don't know, my dad left, I don't know. A couple hours later, he texts me and said, and you don't have to remember, you don't have to research, it doesn't matter, it's gone, like we've cleared it. And he texts me and he goes, I got hold of my mom, my dad left when I was 4. So he had
Hmm.
been carrying this along for, 40 years. I don't know how old he is, but whatever. He's been carrying it along. So we had several more sessions, and I said, how, like, kind of like you, how are you feeling? How has this impacted you? And he
Hmm.
said, I have been in so many situations in the last week where normally I would have overreacted. I would have been mad. I would have lashed out, at the traffic, at people moving too slowly in a line, just the basic day-to-day stuff. And I realized I just waited. I was just calm. I
Yeah.
wasn't triggered. And I said, "Has your wife noticed?" And he said, "Yes." I said, "Did you tell her what you did?" Because no, I'm not brave enough to tell her yet. We'll do a few more sessions and then I'll tell
Yeah.
her what it is. But I was telling a friend after the encounter with him and then the follow-up, like, there are those moments as an entrepreneur that you think, man, should I just quit this? Like, is this even worth the effort of
Yeah.
getting the website and the links to work and all the things? That moment with him was like pouring gas on a fire. Like, I have to do this now. I
Yeah.
helped a woman heal from hip surgery, and she went from not being able to hardly walk at all to being able to walk and do stairs. Um, I helped a man who had cancer with his treatments along the way. Like, I did not cure the cancer. Let's be clear.
Mhm.
Let me say that again. I
Yeah.
did not cure cancer. But what I did do was create an environment for his body to heal better and be more comfortable in his journey. I
Yeah.
totally believe in modern medicine, 100%. Don't take my drugs away from me or my procedures or whatever. I'm a both and. Like, I think
Yeah.
it all works beautifully together, but what inspires me and keeps me going on the days that I think, man, is this really, like, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? And then I have that conversation and I find out that following these modalities and knowing that it's divinely inspired changes lives.
Yeah. It's beautiful. It's beautiful, and the takeaway from all this, as far as I'm concerned, is discover this for yourself. Open your mind and open your heart and bring those walls down. Let the audience know where they can get a hold of you, where they can find you, Jennifer, and yeah, just share that.
Yes. So one thing on that, the book, The Emotion Code by Dr. Bradley Nelson, you can read it. It's on audiobook also. And you can learn to do this for yourself, right? Like, you can start healing yourself quickly and easily. So I highly recommend that. Jennifer Takagi, and that's TAKAGI.com. I'm on all the platforms. I'm in all the places. And I have a free gift, 12minutegift.com, where I go through my win methodology, which is wire the brain for positivity, imagine the future that you really want, and next steps. Break them down into small 12-minute increments, and you can crush it.
I love that 12-minute gift. Thank you so much, Jennifer Takagi. Always wonderful to see you, and I really appreciate your being on the show.
Thank you, Hirsch. I'm happy to be here.
Thanks so much for tuning into Truth Tastes Funny. If you enjoyed the experience, please leave a 5-star review and share this podcast with your friends.